Okay, let's just dive right in. The story we're unpacking today is, well, it's just staggering. It's history, it's tragedy, but it's also this incredibly profound look at personal courage.
It really is.
We're doing a deep dive into the lives of the Mirabal sisters, who you probably know as the butterflies.
Las Mariposas.
Exactly. Four young women who took on one of the most absolute, most brutal dictators of the 20th century, Rafael Trujillo in the Dominican Republic.
And this is a bit of a different kind of deep dive for us. Our source material isn't just a pile of dry historical documents.
No.
We're working mostly from a really foundational piece of historical fiction, In the Time of the Butterflies.
Yeah.
And what makes it so powerful is that it draws on the actual letters, the journals, and the memories of the family itself.
So our mission here is pretty specific. We want to synthesize the individual stories of all four of the Mirabal sisters. That's Dedé, Minerva, Patria, and María Teresa.
Right.
Because we want to understand the danger they were in, how it kept escalating, and just what a staggering personal sacrifice it was to challenge a military dictatorship built on fear.
A kind of pervasive, paralyzing fear.
Yeah.
And we need to get at not just what they did, but why each one chose her own path. And, what that cost the one who was left behind.
And that is exactly where the story really begins. The first voice we hear, the one that frames everything, is Dedé, the surviving sister.
Yeah, the source finds her decades later. It's 1994, and she's just pruning her garden, living a life that is so saturated with the memory of her sisters, but at the same time, it's also desperately ordinary.
And the text sets up this really painful, sort of prickly core of her whole existence right away. She's constantly being interrupted.
All the time.
By journalists, scholars, just curious people who still want to hear the story. But they're not just after facts, are they?
No, not at all. They're looking for an answer to that one question that just hangs in the air, the one that haunts her every single day.
Why are you the one who survived? Ugh. And layered on top of all of this is this stark, almost cruel irony about her life now, her profession.
Right. She is the company's top life insurance salesperson.
I mean, just think about that for a second.
It's unbelievable.
The one thing she sells day in and day out is security, stability, a guaranteed financial future for families, the very future that was so brutally ripped away from her own family.
It's a dark, daily reminder of the risk they all took and the future that she was just left alone to figure out.
And this legacy, it's not some abstract thing for her. Dedé mentions this recurring cycle of commemorations, especially every November 25th, the anniversary.
So it's not a private grief.
Not at all. It's this vital, ongoing national memory that absolutely requires her participation. Her just being there, her existence, it forces the entire country to keep confronting the price of their own freedom.
Okay, so let's go back to the very beginning, before all the danger, before the sacrifice.
To Odagua. Exactly. The Mirabal family lived in a place of, relative comfort, prosperity. Their father, Don Enrique Papa, and their mother, Donichea, they raised four very different daughters in a pretty traditional sheltered home.
And that initial family dynamic is so key to understanding the women they all became. You had Patria, the eldest, who was so pious and maternal.
Then Minerva, the intellectual, the restless one.
And Dedé, the practical, down-to-earth one. And then there was a gap.
A big gap. The first three were born one right after the other, which led to Papa's kind of famous dark joke.
Right, he'd aim a finger pistol and go.
Bang, bang, bang.
Yeah. It's a joke that, it carries a certain sting, right? It suggests this sort of casual, controlling masculinity that was pretty common.
And then 9 years later, María Teresa, or Mate, shows up, the baby of the family. Papa joked she was his final desperate attempt at a boy misfiring.
Which really highlights her status. She's sort of an afterthought, which gives her this initial distance from the early dramas that are about to unfold.
And Papa, the patriarch, he was traditional, but he was also sharp. He saw traits in his daughters that he recognized in himself.
He did. He singled out Dedé for her practicality. He called her his hard shoe needed for his soft foot.
What a phrase.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
It suggests she was the one who'd keep the family business solid, the one grounded in material reality. And that's so crucial because it completely foreshadows her later choice for safety.
So this sheltered life, it really starts to crack around 1938. Patria, the religious one, announces she wants to be a nun.
And Minerva, ever the strategist, sees an opening. She uses this. She sees the convent school, Inmaculada Concepcion, Not as a religious calling.
No, it's an escape route, an escape from the small domestic cage of the family farm.
And Pop agrees. I mean, to him, the convent is the safest, most morally secure place you could possibly send your daughters. But Minerva's intellectual curiosity, it immediately clashes with all that enforced piety.
She gets there expecting freedom, and within days, she has this profound realization.
Yeah, she realizes she has simply left a small cage to go into a bigger one, the size of her whole country.
That is such a powerful insight. She understands that the political oppression isn't some distant force. It's the very air she breathes. It has colonized every part of her life, even her education.
And that realization that the whole country's a cage, it gets crystallized for her through a friendship with another student, Sunita.
Sunita, the charity student, always dressed in mourning black. She's the one who brings the forbidden truth into the convent.
She is the first real crack in the polished surface of Minerva's world. She reveals the secret of Trujillo. And this isn't abstract politics.
No, it's chillingly personal.
It's personal political violence. Sunita just lays it all out, how her family, her uncles, her father were systematically murdered or just disappeared.
Because they turned against him.
Right. She explains how Trujillo had orchestrated this whole facade of democracy, just manipulating his way into power by killing anyone who stood in his way.
And you have to remember, this is all happening inside a Catholic girls' school, a supposedly protected space.
Exactly. The violence of the outside world is just seeping in through the cracks in Sunita's voice. And it teaches Minerva a lesson right from the start.
Yeah.
Opposition means obliteration.
So if Sunita brought the political violence into the convent, the tragedy of Lina Loveton brought Trujillo's absolute predatory power right through the front door.
Oh, Lina. This was in 1941. Lina was the most beautiful girl in the school, an older girl, the favorite of the nuns, almost a saint in their eyes. Trujillo's interest in her was a signal.
A signal of his reach.
His ability to get into the most sacred, most sheltered spaces. And he wasn't subtle about it. He sent gifts. He visited all the time.
And the source notes that Lina, who was so young and naive, she actually called his predatory attention love.
But the true nature of his power is revealed when she gets pregnant. Because a dictator's power must be absolute. And that extends to his domestic life.
Right. So when his wife, Doña Maria, finds out,
she goes after Lina with a knife, literally tries to murder her on the convent grounds.
unbelievable.
So to manage the scandal, to protect his own image, Trujillo ships Lina off to a mansion in Miami. It's a beautiful golden cage.
Where she just lives, waiting for calls that never come, alone and forgotten.
What a stark, visceral warning that must have been for Minerva and her friends. It wasn't just about political ideology anymore.
No, it was about the absolute violation of a woman's body, a woman's life, under a regime where everything, your beauty, your success, your innocence, is conditional. It all depends on the dictator's desire.
The lesson was brutal. Resistance might get you killed, but compliance might just ruin you.
So the girls, having sort of internalized this danger, they find a moment to lash out. It's during the centennial performance for El Jefe's birthday in 1944.
A mandatory loyalty performance.
Of course. Minerva, Sunita, and their friends, the quadruplets, are forced into a skit about the enslaved motherland seeking independence, and they decide to twist this loyalty test into a hidden protest.
And the climax of that skit is it's unforgettable. It shows Minerva's defiance in action. Sunita's playing Liberty, and she's supposed to untie Minerva, who is playing the motherland.
But she doesn't follow the script.
No. Instead, Sunita steps out of the tableau, and she aims her bow, a symbolic weapon, directly at Trujillo, who's sitting right there in the audience.
Can you just imagine the collective gasp in that room? The sheer audacity of it?
This young girl, channeling all the rage for her murdered family, aiming this symbolic act of assassination right at the dictator.
And the source describes Trujillo's son, Ramphis, just leaping up to protect his father. He breaks the bow, and then he screams this crude, disgusting demand at Sunita.
Use your dog teeth, bitch. Untie her with your mouth.
It's the perfect distillation of the whole regime. Any act of rebellion is met with immediate, visceral, sexual humiliation.
But this is where Minerva's quick thinking, her mastery of performance, saves them all.
She immediately breaks the tension.
By starting the only acceptable chant she can think of. Viva Trujillo. Viva Trujillo.
And you have to wonder, right, was that purely a performance? Or for just a split second, did she give in to the terror, to the instinct to survive?
I think the text implies she masters the performance of loyalty because she understands the cost of her own defiant heart. She learns that to fight another day, she has to be utterly convincing in her compliance.
Meanwhile, back home, you've got Maria Teresa Mate, who's observing all of this from a distance. She's so much younger.
Yeah, her early diary entries from around 45, 46, they show this incredible contrast.
Between what, childish innocence and this encroaching political danger.
Exactly. She's worrying about these tiny, immediate things. Doodling during Mass, which she lists as a mortal sin, desperately wanting a pair of patent leather shoes.
Just a normal little girl.
But even her world is being infected by Minerva's secret life. Mate notes that Minerva is now going to secret meetings at the house of Don Horacio, a known opponent of the regime.
And because she loves her sister, she gets drawn into the silence, into the conspiracy.
Yeah, she confesses in her diary that she commits her own mortal sin by lying to a nun to cover for Minerva's absences.
So her innocence isn't shattered in one big moment.
No, it's eroded. Quietly, day by day, by the secrets she has to keep. She starts to see El Jefe's picture everywhere, the police. Not as figures of authority, but as agents of risk.
And this slow erosion is such a sharp contrast to Patria's path. Around 1946, she's on a completely different journey.
A completely spiritual one. She's so deeply pious, her whole plan is to become Soul Mercedes, to dedicate her life to God.
But the source depicts this classic struggle, right? The
Yeah.
spirit is willing.
But the flesh is very, very present. She describes feeling the other parts of my body began to wake. Her spiritual calling is in direct competition with this burgeoning physical desire she can't ignore.
And her faith crisis isn't resolved by some miracle.
No, it's resolved by a very earthy, very physical experience. During a Holy Week foot-washing ritual, she's washing feet, avoiding eye contact, doing her duty, until she sees one particular foot.
A pale young foot, luxuriant with dark hair.
That foot belongs to Pedrito Gonzalez, a local farmer. And in that one instant, her piety just gives way to desire. It's this incredibly sensual conversion from the religious to the earthly.
She realizes her true calling isn't in the abstract purity of the convent.
It's in the physical, tangible world. Marriage, creation, life. She marries Pedrito soon after. And I think the deep dive here is seeing that Patria's religious struggle, this tension between the spirit and the messy physical world, is a perfect metaphor for the national struggle they were all about to join.
That's a great point. If God is found in physical reality and the suffering of the body, then she has to address the suffering that's happening in the physical world around her. It sets her up for the most sacrificial role of all.
The pace of this story really accelerates as Minerva's defiance turns into actual political action in the late 1940s.
Right, and this is when Virgilio Leo Morales shows up.
Leo, a radical young doctor, a professor. Trujillo had announced this temporary political opening, probably to appease the United States, which allowed dissidents like Leo to come back from exile.
Making him an instant magnet for Minerva's revolutionary spirit.
Absolutely. Leo is the true radical. He's the one who won't compromise. And his arrival just causes immediate chaos, especially for Dedé.
In her heart and her mind, she's engaged to the steady, safe, completely apolitical Jaimito.
And suddenly she's so deeply attracted to Leo, whose principles are the exact opposite of Jaimito's whole philosophy, which is basically keep your head down to survive.
And Jaimito's perspective, it's often overlooked, but it's so critical to the story.
It really is. He's not a coward, he's practical. He calls Leo a troublemaker who gets his friends thrown in jail to rot while he runs off to an embassy for asylum.
Jaimito represents the vast majority of people, doesn't he? People who see the brutality, but they have to prioritize their family's survival over what seems like an impossible risk.
And Dedé is just caught right in the middle. She admires Leo's refusal to compromise his vision, but she's also drawn to the absolute safety Jaimito is offering. Jaimito argues that all life involves compromise.
A statement that sounds reasonable in a marriage, but in the context of a dictatorship, it sounds dangerously close to collaboration.
And all that tension comes to a head during the famous volleyball incident.
Almost comical in a way. The whole family's playing volleyball, and Dedé hits a foul ball. And whether it was an accident or some subconscious urge to just force the issue,
it lands deep in the hedges and flushes out Minerva and Leo, who are having a secret meeting.
which leads to this public confrontation right there in the yard. Leo has to defend his need to continue the struggle against Jaimito's warnings about staying silent. The scene just forces Dedé's hand.
She sees the danger Leo represents, not just to Minerva, but to the entire family.
And this brings us to Dedé's pivotal, defining act. The quiet betrayal that really seals her fate as the sister who survives and the one who has to carry all the guilt.
Leo is forced into hiding, but he manages to get a letter to Dedé, and in it, he's pleading with Minerva to take asylum with him, to escape the country.
And we have to slow down here and really try to understand her motivation. She loves Minerva fiercely. She is genuinely terrified for her.
She sees Leo's offer not as a path to freedom, but as a reckless suicidal risk. Himito's practicality has completely colonized her thinking at this point.
So she makes a conscious choice.
He burns the letter.
She destroys the evidence and, with it, the opportunity. In her mind, she's saving Minerva's life. She's choosing security for her sister over some dangerous political fantasy.
But in doing that, she makes sure Minerva can never make that choice for herself. And that single act is the birth of decades of guilt for Dedé. It fixes her path as the survivor, the keeper of this devastating secret.
And while Dedé is choosing safety for Minerva, Minerva herself is confronting this deep, ugly truth about her own father. This is 1949.
Yeah, she discovers Papa's hidden stash in his armoire. And what she finds is just this profound, multi-layered betrayal.
First, there's the gingham bill and an invitation that confirms his infidelity, his affair.
But the second part is what's even more damaging to Minerva personally. She finds 4 earlier letters from Leo that Papa had intercepted to protect her.
So he had been actively sabotaging her political passions, her potential freedom.
The weight of that is just staggering. Her own father, the patriarch, the supposedly safe center of their world, is compromised. Domestically by his mistress, politically by his fear. He's a petty tyrant living in the shadow of the great tyrant Trujillo.
And Minerva's reaction is explosive, immediate.
She grabs the Jeep, drives straight to the yellow house where his mistress, Carmen Maria, and their 4 illegitimate daughters live, and she intentionally crashes the Jeep into Papa's car parked outside.
An act of public vengeance.
Totally. And when Papa comes out, shirtless and furious, he slaps her. But the slap backfires spectacularly.
Because in that moment of violence, she realizes his power is just a facade. She sees that she and her mother, despite their submissive roles, are morally and emotionally stronger. Papa was the weakest one of all, tormented by his own shabby choices and his fear.
And the entanglement is complete. Family loyalty, political oppression, personal compromise, they're all now the same thing.
And that outburst, plus her known defiance, it gets her the ultimate summons. A direct, personal invitation to the Discovery Day dance, hosted by Trujillo himself, October 1949.
And the whole family is forced to go as chaperones, absolutely terrified of what's going to happen.
That Discovery Day dance is a perfect microcosm of the regime's predatory nature. Minerva is there, dressed beautifully, and at first she tries to play the game. She flirts.
She tries to use the moment to push her own goal, which is getting permission to study law at the university. She appeals to Trujillo's vanity as a supposed advocate for women.
Trying to use his own ego against him. But the tension just escalates so quickly. He's giving her this intense, leering attention, making it crystal clear that the price for any favor is sexual compliance.
And the source details that horrifying physical moment when he pulls her close and she feels the hardness at his groin pressing against my dress.
Faced with the absolute demand of his power, Minerva pushes back. He pulls her tighter and she refuses to comply.
And she slaps his face.
The chaos that follows is immediate, almost cinematic. The rain starts pouring, the lights go out, there's screaming, glass shattering.
The family just knows they've committed an act of treason, and they make this frantic retreat, running out into the downpour.
But the slap, as defiant as it was, is only half the danger. As they're rushing out, Minerva realizes
She lost her purse.
And what was in that purse was a literal collection of death sentences. Her ID, her cedula, Leo's intercepted letters, and crucially, a small Nivea tin.
The Nivea tin, this is such a critical piece of context. The tin held the ashes of the Luperon martyrs.
Right. The Luperon invasion had just happened in June 1949. It was a failed attempt by anti-Trujillo exiles to overthrow the regime.
It was violently crushed. The participants were all executed. So to possess the ashes of these men, to literally carry the remains of declared traitors, was irrefutable, death sentence level evidence of radical affiliation.
The consequences are immediate. Papa and Minerva are summoned by the governor. Papa is arrested first, taken to the capital, and he ends up imprisoned, where he has a heart attack.
Minerva and her mother track him down, just desperate. When Papa is finally released, he is a broken man, psychologically and physically destroyed.
He's mumbling about human teeth and spoiled yuccas, just clear signs that his time in Trujillo's prisons has shattered his mind. He's released, but he's just a shell.
But Minerva, she maintains her spirit, which leads to her final direct confrontation with Trujillo,
who seems to be enjoying the challenge in a twisted way. He offers her a game of chance for her freedom to study law. He points to these decorative scales on his desk.
A masterstroke of tyranny, right? He makes justice and freedom seem like just a whim, a personal gift from him.
But Minerva, the careful observer, she notices a detail. The scales are lopsided. They're weighted.
And the dice on them are the very same set her cheating Tío Chiche gave Trujillo years ago, claiming they had a piece of Columbus's bone inside. They're loaded dice.
And what this moment teaches her, and what it teaches you as the reader, is that under a dictatorship, even concepts like chance or fairness are just rigged games designed to reinforce the dictator's absolute control.
So Minerva refuses to play his game. She reaches over, grabs the heavier unloaded dice, rolls them hard.
And gets a double, a moment of genuine chaotic agency.
But Trujillo keeps control. He immediately takes her dice, you can tell he maneuvers them, and he rolls a matching double. His conclusion is just chilling, a temporary banishment.
We either both get our wishes or we call it even for now.
So she's blocked from law school, but she secured this temporary, incredibly dangerous truce. The tyrant has now acknowledged her as a personal rival.
The events of 1949 are this brutal turning point. The family goes home disgraced, and Papa, he never recovers from the trauma of being in prison. He dies shortly after, in December of 1953.
And that loss just further destabilizes the whole family.
His death is marked by this immediate layering of pain and betrayal, especially for Malte.
Yeah, she's grieving so intensely, and then she's just devastated when Papa's mistress, Carmen Maria, shows up at the funeral.
With their 4 illegitimate daughters.
So the reality of her father's deception is just laid bare for everyone to see.
And Mate's diary, which Minerva had given her, becomes her way of coping. She doesn't turn to politics yet. She turns to a mix of superstition and this kind of burgeoning resistance.
She even asks Fela, the family servant, for spells. She's looking for some magical way to restore order to her world.
And that sequence, her little rituals, it's so darkly symbolic.
It is. She writes Trujillo's name on a piece of paper and puts it in her left shoe. It's a reference to the story of Eve crushing the serpent's head.
So she's crushing the evil dictator.
And then she writes Papa's name and puts it in her right shoe, which is for problems with someone she loves.
Wow, so she's literally walking around doing a double spell.
Exactly. Crushing the dictator under her revolutionary heel while trying to manage the complicated, painful, flawed love she has for her dead father. She's trying to reconcile her private pain with this public political reality.
In the wake of Papa's death, the family stability is everything. Mama, Doña Chea, she's forced to write this florid, groveling letter of undying loyalty to Trujillo.
Just desperately trying to buy them some safety, invoking her Uncle Chicha's name as a safeguard, using any tiny bit of influence she might have left.
It just reinforces the necessity of that performance under a dictatorship. You have to publicly humiliate yourself to survive.
But the most profound transformation during this time happens to Patria. Her radicalization is uniquely spiritual.
She suffers an unimaginable tragedy. She loses her baby boy, who is still born.
And that loss is so profound, it just strips her of her faith. It leaves her feeling like an empty house. She stops believing.
And her faith crisis only resolves when she starts looking outward, connecting her own intense personal suffering to the suffering of the entire nation.
Right. She starts thinking about the Perozzo family, about the thousands massacred at the Haitian border, the river running red with blood. She realizes her personal loss is just one wave in this sea of national pain.
And the ultimate turning point is so visceral. She's looking at her cherished portrait of the Good Shepherd, which always symbolized her faith, and she sees Trujillo's portrait hanging right next to it.
And she realizes the two images have merged. She understands that Trujillo has basically usurped the spiritual authority of God, and so he has to be confronted physically.
Her decision is purely sacrificial. She decides she has to spare all those I love by taking action.
And this all culminates in her experience on the Higui pilgrimage. She goes there seeking the comfort of the Virgin Mary, but she finds God not in the holy image,
but in the coughs and cries and whispers of the crowd.
In the shared, messy humanity and suffering of her countrymen. And that's her final commitment to activism. Her faith transforms from personal piety into communal action.
And to do this, she has to maintain her facade. She fools everyone. She keeps up this perfect image of a devout, model Catholic wife,
while secretly supporting the struggle, using her home as a meeting place, a safe harbor.
So while Patria, Minerva, and Mate are all moving toward commitment, Dedé is settling into the life that she chose.
She's running the restaurant with Jaimito, she's keeping the books, that practical skill her father admired, but she's still the fence sitter. still struggling with the compromise she made when she burned Leo's letter.
And her struggle comes out most clearly in the Fela incident.
Ah, Fela, the family servant. She sets up an altar to the dead sisters. She's already anticipating their martyrdom, and she starts acting as a spirit channel.
She becomes possessed by their spirits, answering questions, offering cures, and people start flocking to the house, treating it like a pilgrimage site.
And Dedé, the pragmatist, is just horrified. She's ashamed. She's embarrassed by what she sees as low superstition.
She shuts the whole operation down instantly, shouting that her sister Minerva was a Catholic and that the whole spirit channel thing is disrespectful.
But the deep insight there is Dedé's rejection of the mythologizing of her sisters. She wants the world to remember the living, breathing women, the complicated, flawed people they actually were.
Not the mystical saints that Fela is channeling.
She's terrified of the messiness of their legacy, and that internal struggle is then powerfully challenged by the younger generation, specifically by her niece, Manu, who is Minerva's daughter.
Right. Manu goes to see Fela, and then she confronts Dedé directly, asking about Leo Morales. She claims her mother's spirit told her at Fela's that Leo was still alive.
Manu demands the truth. She tells Dedé, "I'm tired of being the daughter of a legend. It's this generational challenge. The children of the martyrs want the difficult, unvarnished truth."
And it forces Dedé to finally admit that she knows Leo is alive, forcing her to confront the full reality of her past betrayal.
And the final step in this whole transformation belongs to Mate. Heavily influenced by Minerva, she enrolls in law school after she finishes her initial schooling. Her political awareness is now fully mature.
And her second diary, from 53 to 58, it just shows the mounting pressure. They are now actively involved in the underground movement.
Her final entries reveal the capture of their friend Hilda and the decision that they have to destroy all the incriminating evidence before the secret police come.
Minerva tells her, "We have to bury you too," and she's talking about the diary itself.
The act of burying that diary is the ultimate symbolic sacrifice of her innocence. And Mate's last entry is this powerful philosophical question. My soul has gotten deeper. What do I do now to fill up that hole?
That hole, left by burying her most personal secrets, her vulnerability, is now this void that can only be filled by absolute dangerous commitment to the revolution. Her transformation is complete.
So if we synthesize this extraordinary journey, what we really see are four completely distinct paths that all lead to the same destination of defiance. Minerva, she was driven by her intellect, her refusal to be caged, and she moved from personal defiance, the slap to tactical political action.
And Patria, the most grounded in tradition and faith, she shifted from this deep personal piety, which was catalyzed by the loss of her child, into a really profound, sacrificial communal faith. She chose to fight the physical evil of the dictator.
Then María Teresa, the baby of the family, she moved from that childhood innocence and superstition into this deep emotional commitment. She realized that the hole left by burying her vulnerability could only be filled by fighting for the future of her country.
And Dedé, the practical one, the pragmatist. She's defined by the security she chose and the compromise she made. She becomes the unwilling guardian of their terrible, glorious memory, the one left to manage the myth.
And our listener, you came here seeking quick, thorough knowledge, a shortcut to understanding this powerful history. But what the source material really shows us is that knowledge, especially in a repressive state, it's not a neutral thing.
No, not at all.
Knowing the truth, whether it's Minerva learning about Trujillo's loaded dice or Dedé learning that Leo escaped, it brings immediate, immense personal risk. It forces these difficult, painful choices that will define the entire rest of your life.
It fundamentally changes what it even means to survive. Maid ends her diary wondering how to fill the hole left by burying her secrets. And Dedé's contemporary mission, 30 years later, isn't just to sell life insurance.
No, it's to ensure that the living, breathing women, the flawed daughters, the conflicted wives, the brilliant sisters are the ones who are remembered, not just the two-dimensional heroines on the posters.
So we're left with this question that Dedé has to face every single day. She survived. She lived to sell stability and future guarantees in a free country. What exactly was the ultimate collective price the Mirabal sisters paid, the full depth of their sacrifice, so that Dedé and the entire nation could eventually achieve that stable future she now sells policies for?
What is the profound and continuing responsibility of those who survive and remember when others cannot?
A truly profound and necessary thought to end on. It connects a historical tragedy directly to our ethical responsibility of memory today. That's all for this deep dive into the lives of the butterflies who challenged the beast. We'll see you next time.